Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joe Simpson. I wanted to spend a little bit of time tonight. It's Tuesday, March the 10th, and talk about poppers. To be honest, I was kind of given this idea by a guy named Steve Rogers Outdoors. I watched a video driving into work today. Go figure that one out. I sometimes set my phone on my dash and I'll listen to people talk, and I just glance. Never mind. Anyway, I wanted to talk about poppers. He had some great insight as to when and how and what types and different ways to use the poppers. And I wanted to expand on it just a little bit, and might be a little redundant, but at least I'm putting in my 2 cents as well. But if you get a chance, go over and check this guy out. His name's Steve Rogers. He doesn't look like he's real big yet, but he definitely has some good information on his channel for sure. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you fish with poppers, but it's probably one of the oldest fishing baits in the book. So this is a teeny popare. This is probably one of the oldest poppers that I know of that people use a lot. It's got a feathered treble hook in the back. It's got a regular treble hook in the middle, a couple of eyes, a white belly with a fishy looking top. Now, for the most part, that's what all poppers look like, but they can all do different things, and there's different ways to work poppers. So first of all, let's talk about poppers and kind of when you should use them. I find poppers really useful in the springtime. They're going to be looking for small bait fish. They feed on fry. Sometimes the males will hit when they're fry guarding to protect the little ones. So anywhere near, before, on, or after the spawn period is a great time to use poppers, and really any other time throughout the year, especially in the dead of summer, early mornings, evenings, and getting in the fall. It can be a real riot using any type of topwater. But what makes a popper, I think, special is that they can be fished in so many different ways. So if you think about topwater in general, you've got stick baits, and those tend to walk and they go back and forth. And then you've got whopper ploppers. Those are basically buzz baits that float and then they chug along and they have to keep moving. Buzz baits, if you don't keep them moving, they'll just sink to the bottom. The thing about poppers that makes them unique is that you can fish them in a myriad of ways. I mean, you could literally just throw the thing out there and just let it sit, and sometimes that's enough to draw a strike. Or you could throw it out into the kill zone and you can just hit it once, hit it twice, and sometimes you'll get picked up. And then also, if you want to do it more like a buzzbait or whopper plopper, you can just chug, 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 and make a lot of noise with them. You're probably going to find a popper in every fisherman's box of some sort all the time, because they're just a go-to bait for most fishermen. I wanted to walk through some of the ones that I have. They really range in size. I would say the first one I would pick up, and probably this first one, is going to be the Popare Teeny. This is a popper made by Rebel. It's probably one of the oldest in the book. It's got a couple little eyes, kind of a fishy looking top, a white fishy looking belly, a feathered tail. And this is small. This is probably going to be in the 1/4 ounce range, and you're going to want to throw this probably on a spinning rod. Now, the type of rod you'd want to use for fishing a popper is, you don't want something that's like a medium heavy, real stiff, fast tip, because these things have treble hooks, and sometimes these bass will short strike them or not hit them quite well enough to get it in the one bite. And sometimes you're too quick with it, or you'll yank it out of their mouth, or you'll bend a treble hook. They can be a little tricky. So you want to fish them with a little bit more finesse. A spinning rod is great, especially if it's just like a straight up medium action, medium rod. And we're talking like light medium. I would fish either mono, 6 pounds, somewhere in that range, or probably go to a braid, maybe a 10 pound or 15 pound braid on a spinning setup. This lure right here is made by Lunker, and it's called Crush. This is a really cool lure. It's got a little bit more weight, and the treble hooks are a little beefier. These are like a number 6 hook, and they come with a feathered tail already on the popper. The feathered tails work better in most situations, because when the bait's sitting there and that tail is dangling in the water, a lot of times this feather will just sit there and kind of pulsate and make movement, and it looks kind of like a fish when their tail just sits there and wiggles like this when they're trying to hold the position, being perfectly still. Their fins kind of buoyantly move them around and keep them in place. And these feathers emulate that look a lot. So if it looks like a struggling bait fish on top of the water, it's got its tail kind of hanging underneath. Sometimes that's all it takes for that bass to strike that popper. Now you can get into some bigger poppers. This popper is called the Arashi Cover Pop. And what I really like about this is a much bigger body profile. You've got bigger hooks. You're down to probably a number 4 hook now. And what this thing is really good at is walking. And you can see this angle or the slant in the nose of this bait, and that really enables it to move back and forth. So sometimes when you pop a popper, you just want it to chug forward and chug forward and chug forward and kind of pop and push water and make noise. But sometimes you want it to twist and go this way and go this way. And it's called walking. And you can walk a lure with slack line on your rod. And it's kind of a technique you learn over time, but you can figure it out. But what's nice about the Arashi Cover Pop is that lure will actually cast out into a zone, let's say like a little 2-foot spot in between some lilies. And let's say like a normal popper, you get it 1, 2, 3 pops, and next thing you know, you're in the weeds and you got to pull it up and try again. The cover pop, you could just sit there and barely touch it. It'll turn left and stay put. You touch it again, it'll turn right and stay put. So that's really effective when you're trying to work particular spots. Like if you don't have a frog, you can't go weedless, but you still want to work an area or a zone a little bit more intensely. It comes in handy to have those walking type of poppers. And then, of course, if you're out in open water and you need to make some noise with that thing, you can definitely do that as well. The Mega Bass, this is a Mega Bass imitation. But the Mega Bass lures are incredibly successful. They have a little cutout in their gills. This one does not. It's just fake. But they have a little cutout on the side of their gills that allow water to kind of splash through, which gives you a different sound. And they've got some rattles in there too. The last kind of popper I want to cover, it's called the Booyah Prank. This is kind of cool because what this thing does, if you notice, it has a plastic lip on the front. So if you pop this thing once or twice, you'll get a pop out of it. But if you'll notice, when you start reeling this thing in, it'll start diving down underneath the water. So like, let's use this as an example. It's like the second chance bait. You throw this thing out there, you're up underneath the tree branch, you know there's a fish there. It's like the perfect cast. You know you're going to get a strike. You take this popper, you hit it once, you hit it twice, bam, this thing hits it, touches the lure, but doesn't take it all the way, and you miss the hit. It's very unlikely, or it's very uncommon to be able to cast back into that spot and pick that fish up with that same lure, with that same technique, because sometimes they just kind of figure it out. What's nice about this lure, and a lot of people will do this, they'll keep 2 rods on their boat. They'll throw the popper out. If it misses the popper, they'll circle back with like a crankbait, a square bill, or like a Senko. And they'll try to pick that fish up with a different bait. They call it the second chance bait. If it missed it the first time, we'll take the second chance on the new bait. Well, the Booyah Prank is kind of like both baits built in one. You can throw that thing out there, pop it. If you miss them on the popper bite, throw it back out, maybe beyond the zone, and then reel that thing back through, and it'll go like a foot under the water and it'll swim. And what's cool is it looks just like the bait that the fish just struck. So it's kind of neat. And I have actually caught fish using that lure on a second chance cast. So it's pretty cool. And then also I use that lure for real shallow water. Like if I'm fishing in 1.5, 2 foot of water and my square bill's not doing well in that depth, I'll throw that thing out there and just kind of pull it slow, let it rise to the top, pop it once, then pull it back down. And it's really versatile. So basically, poppers are going to be your best friend in the springtime. I mean, the whopper plopper's great, frogs are fun, and all these other baits are awesome, but poppers really should be the go-to bait that you try for topwater in the spring. I really highly recommend getting a popper out this year, putting it on your spinning gear, some light casting gear, and just give that a shot, see what you can pull out, and let me know how it goes for you guys. Any tips that you guys can think of, put them down below because I'm sure I missed some stuff. So I think we covered the popper types themselves. They go from small to large. There's second chance baits. There's walking poppers. Then also your rod types. You can use spinning gear, which I would say just use a straight up medium. You can use little tiny poppers with ultralight stuff too. But for the mainstream, you're going to use a 2000 series reel, 6-foot rod medium, and that'll be perfect. And then for bait casting, you just want to use a regular reel, maybe 20-pound braid, and just throw that thing out there. As long as it's heavy enough to be casted on the bait caster, you'll be fine. And don't use a rod that's too heavy. Like don't pull out your frog rod for your poppers, but just pull something out that's going to be like just a straight medium with a little bend to it. Like I even think a square bill rod would work fine, you know, as long as it's loose enough in the tip and gives a little bit so you're not bending out those hooks. But that's really all I had to say about poppers tonight. Just a little quick thought before I hit the sack. So you guys take care, be safe, and protect yourself. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, and let's stay healthy and go fishing this spring. Let me know what you guys think of poppers. Any ideas you can come up with, let me know about it. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Catastrophe. Oh,
take a little more than a dip.